Kicked out at 18, Orc Girl bought an abandoned house for 1 gold coin. What it became changed her. There are moments in life where everything you thought you knew gets packed into a single worn leather bag and thrown out the door with you. For Nasha, that moment happened on a Tuesday morning when the sun wasn't even fully awake yet. She stood outside the gates of Blood Peak Village with nothing but that bag, the clothes on her back, and a secret she'd kept hidden for 3 years. A single gold coin pressed against her palm inside her clenched fist. The coin her grandmother had given her the night before she died, the last thing that proved someone in this world had once loved her. Behind those wooden gates lived 18 years of memories, 18 years of trying to be orc enough, strong enough, loud enough, angry enough. It turned out 18 years of trying wasn't the same as 18 years of succeeding. "You're too soft, Nasha." Those had been her father's words, not cruel, just factual, the way you'd comment on weather. The clan needs warriors. You cry when we hunt. You hesitate in combat training. You're a liability. Her mother hadn't said anything, just looked away. That silence hurt worse than any words could. Nasha was 5'9", which made her short for an orc woman. Her skin was the green of new spring leaves instead of the deep forest green of proper orc warriors. Her tusks were small, barely visible when her mouth was closed. And worst of all, she had this terrible habit of caring about things, about hurt animals, about fairness, about people's feelings. In an orc clan where strength meant everything and sentiment meant weakness, Nasha was basically useless. So they did what clans do with useless things. They cut them loose. The coin in her hand was warm now from her body heat. She opened her palm and looked at it. One side showed the symbol of her grandmother's birth clan, 3 mountains under a full moon. The other side was just the moon itself, large and round and watching. "Keep this safe, little one," Grandmother had whispered that night, her massive hand, a hand that had strangled enemies and held babies with equal skill, pressing the coin into Nasha's much smaller palm. Not for what it's worth in gold, but for what it's worth in choices. One day you'll need to choose between who they want you to be and who you actually are. When that day comes, this will help you choose right. Nasha had been 15 then. She hadn't understood. Now, standing alone on a dirt road with nowhere to go and no one waiting for her, she understood perfectly. The nearest human settlement was 3 days' walk south. Orcs didn't go to human villages, humans didn't welcome orcs. That was just how the world worked, had worked for as long as anyone could remember. Orcs stayed in the mountains and forests, humans stayed in their valleys and fields. Everyone was happier that way, except Nasha didn't have anywhere else to go. So she walked. 3 days on dusty roads eating berries and sleeping in ditches, 3 days of blisters and doubt and that special kind of loneliness that comes from being rejected by the only family you've ever known. 3 days of clutching that gold coin so hard it left impressions in her palm. On the 3rd evening she saw it. Millbrook, a human village that looked like someone had taken the idea of quaint and built an entire settlement around it. Thatched roofs, cobblestone streets, a church with a bell tower. Gardens with actual flowers planted just for beauty, not food. It was so human it almost hurt to look at. Nasha stood at the edge of town as the sun set, trying to decide if walking into a human village alone was the bravest or stupidest thing she'd ever done. Probably both. Definitely both. A child saw her first. A little human girl with yellow hair, maybe 6 years old, who was playing with a wooden doll near the road. The girl looked up, saw Nasha's green skin and tusks, and screamed like she'd seen death itself. The mother came running, saw Nasha, grabbed the child and ran back toward the houses, shouting something Nasha couldn't quite make out, but definitely wasn't. "Welcome, stranger, let me get you some tea." By the time Nasha reached the main street, every door was closed, and every window had faces pressed against it, watching, judging, frightened. She was a monster in their story, the thing mothers warned children about, the enemy soldiers fought against in wars nobody quite remembered starting. Nasha wanted to turn around, wanted to walk back into the forest and just keep walking until she found somewhere that didn't exist. But her feet hurt, and her stomach was empty, and pride was a luxury she couldn't afford anymore. So she walked until she found what looked like a tavern. Wooden sign hanging outside with a painted mug on it, the broken barrel, subtle. Inside, the conversation died the instant she ducked through the doorway. And she did have to duck, even though she was short for an orc. Human buildings were built for human heights. 12 people in the tavern, 12 sets of eyes locked on her, 12 sets of hands moving slowly toward belt knives and concealed weapons. "We don't serve your kind here." The voice came from behind the bar. A woman, probably in her 50s, with grey streaking through brown hair and arms that suggested she'd thrown out more than a few troublemakers in her time. This was Bess. Nasha would learn her name later. Right now she was just another human who'd already decided what Nasha was before hearing a single word from her mouth. "I'm not here for trouble," Nasha said. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. I need a place to stay. Just for a night I can pay." "Pay with what? Stolen gold?" Some man in the corner, helpful guy. "No, my own gold." Nasha pulled out the coin, held it up so the firelight caught it. "1 gold coin, real, not stolen, it was my grandmother's." Bess squinted at the coin, then at Nasha, then back at the coin. "That's orc gold," Bess said. "I'm an orc," Nasha replied. Not defensive, just tired. 1 gold coin won't buy you a room here. Won't buy you welcome either. Something in Nasha's chest cracked then. Not broke, just cracked, like ice on a pond when spring comes. "Then what will it buy me?" she asked. "Anything." Bess stared at her for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She laughed. Not a nice laugh. The kind of laugh people make when life is being absurd and mean in equal measure. "There's a house," Bess said slowly, "at the edge of town, east side. Been abandoned for, 6 years now, since old man Garrett died. No heirs, no buyers, just sitting there falling apart." "Why won't anyone buy it?" Nasha asked. "Because it's haunted." The helpful corner man again. "Garrett's ghost walks the halls at night." "Because it's practically rubble," Bess corrected, shooting the man a look that could curdle milk. "Roof leaks. Walls are sagging. Floors got holes. It's not a house anymore. It's a suggestion of what a house used to be." "I'll take it," Nasha said. The tavern went quiet again. "You don't understand," Bess started. "I understand perfectly." Nasha placed the gold coin on the bar. It made a small sound, but in that silent room it might as well have been thunder. 1 gold coin. For the house. That's what you offered. "I didn't offer anything. I was explaining why your gold wasn't worth—" "You said 1 gold coin won't buy welcome, but you also said there's a house that nobody wants. So I'm buying that instead. That's fair trade." Bess looked at the coin, looked at Nasha. Then she did something that would change both their lives, though neither of them knew it yet. She picked up the coin. "Fine," Bess said. "The house is yours, but don't come crying to me when it collapses on your head. And don't expect the rest of this village to suddenly want orc neighbors just because you overpaid for rubble." Nasha's hand was empty now. The coin was gone, the last piece of her grandmother, the last piece of her old life, traded for 4 broken walls and a roof with more holes than shingles. She should have felt regret, should have felt like she'd made a terrible mistake. Instead, she felt something she hadn't felt in 3 days of walking hope. The house was exactly as bad as advertised. Worse, actually. Bess had been generous calling it 4 walls. It was more like 3.5 walls and a prayer. The roof sagged in the middle like a sway-backed horse. The front door hung on one hinge. 2 windows were completely broken, and the third had cracks spreading through the glass like a frozen spiderweb. Inside, the wooden floor had holes you could see through to the dirt below. The fireplace was full of old bird nests. Every surface was covered in 6 years of dust, leaves, and things Nasha preferred not to identify. But it had walls. A roof, however questionable. 4 corners that made a space that was hers. Nasha set her bag down in the driest corner she could find and sat on the floor, carefully testing each board first. Then, alone in her broken house, in a village that feared her, she allowed herself exactly 5 minutes to cry. Not the loud orc cry of mourning that shook mountains. The quiet human kind that's just tears and shaking shoulders and the overwhelming weight of being 18 years old with no family and no idea what comes next. 5 minutes. That's all she allowed herself. Then she wiped her face with her palms, took a breath that sounded steadier than she felt, and looked around her new home. "Okay, grandmother," she whispered to the empty room. "You said the coin would help me choose right. I chose this. So now I guess we find out if I chose well." The house didn't answer. Houses don't. But the last light of sunset came through one of the broken windows and touched the wall where she sat, and for just a moment, Nasha let herself believe that was her grandmother saying she'd done just fine. Morning came with all the grace of a sledgehammer. Nasha woke up stiff, cold, and with a spider crawling across her hand. She yelped, a very un-orc-like sound, and brushed it away, then immediately felt bad for scaring the spider. It was just trying to live its life, same as her. First order of business: assess the damage in daylight. The house looked worse in the morning, that special kind of worse, where you realize all your optimistic evening thoughts were lies. Your brain told you to get through the night. The roof had at least 7 distinct holes she could see. One wall had a crack running floor to ceiling. The back door wasn't just broken, it was missing entirely. Just an empty door frame leading to an overgrown garden. Nasha walked through each room, cataloguing problems: broken floorboards, crumbling plaster. A staircase that led to a second floor she was genuinely afraid to trust with her weight. The place needed work. A lot of work. More work than one person could possibly do alone, especially when that person had exactly 0 experience in carpentry, masonry, or any practical building skill. She was standing in what used to be a kitchen, staring at a counter that was pulling away from the wall at a concerning angle, when she heard it. Footsteps. Outside. Coming closer. Nasha's body went still. Orc instinct. When you're uncertain in unfamiliar territory, you don't move until you know if the footsteps belong to friend or dinner. A knock on the broken doorframe. Not on a door, since there wasn't one, just knuckles rapping on wood. "Hello?" Male voice. Young, human. Is anyone... Are you home?" Nasha moved to where she could see the doorway without fully exposing herself. A young human man stood there, maybe 21 or 22, with brown hair that looked like he'd tried to comb it and given up halfway through. He wore work clothes. Simple shirt, worn trousers, leather tool belt. His hands had the particular calluses that came from working with wood. He was also staring directly at where Nasha was standing. So much for stealth. "I know you're there," he said, not unkindly. "I can see your shadow. And also the whole village is talking about the orc who bought old Garrett's place for a single gold coin. You're kind of the only topic of conversation this morning." Nasha stepped into view, kept her hands visible and open, non-threatening as possible. The man didn't run, didn't reach for a weapon. He just looked at her with the assessing gaze of someone evaluating a problem he might be able to fix. "I'm Elias," he said. "I'm a carpenter, well, apprentice carpenter. But I've been doing it for 6 years, so I'm pretty decent at the actual carpentry part, even if the title hasn't caught up yet. I'm Nasha." Her voice came out wary. "Why are you here?" "Because I walked past this place this morning and saw you'd moved in, and then I thought about all the work this house needs, and then I thought about how you're probably about to have a very bad time trying to fix it alone." He gestured at the building. "No offense, but this house is a disaster. You're going to need help." "I don't have money for help. I didn't ask for money." Nasha stared at him. "Why would you help me for free?" Elias shrugged. "Because you need help, and because I have time, and because—" He paused, choosing words. "Because my master, Hob, he's the old man who used to be the blacksmith before his hands got too shaky. He saw you walk into town yesterday, and he told me something this morning that I think is probably true." "What did he tell you?" "He said that orc girl walked 3 days to get here with nothing but a bag and desperation. She didn't come to raid or fight or cause trouble. She came because she had nowhere else to go. And now she's here, and people are already treating her like a monster, and she hasn't done a single monstrous thing." Elias met Nasha's eyes. He said the true measure of a village is how it treats strangers who have nothing. And right now, Millbrook is failing that measure pretty badly. So you're here out of guilt, Nasha said flatly. I'm here because it's the right thing to do. Elias stepped through the doorframe, careful of the broken boards. Also because this house is so badly damaged, it's kind of personally offensive to me as a carpenter. Like, the previous owner really stopped caring about maintenance around, I'd say 15 years ago. Despite everything, Nasha almost smiled. It's in bad shape. It's in catastrophic shape. But catastrophic can be fixed. It just takes time, materials, and someone who knows which end of a hammer to hold. He looked around the kitchen. First priority, roof. You can live with bad floors and missing doors, but if water keeps getting in, nothing else will matter. We'll need to patch those holes before the next rain. We? Nasha asked carefully. Elias looked at her like the question was strange. Well, yeah. You can't do roof work alone. It's a two-person job minimum. So, we. And just like that, with no fanfare or dramatic moment, Nasha had her first ally in Millbrook. Over the next 2 weeks, Elias came to the house every morning after his work with Hob was done. He brought tools, scraps of wood, old shingles salvaged from other projects. He taught Nasha how to measure twice and cut once, how to test a board for rot, how to drive a nail so it held instead of splitting the wood. They started with the roof. Hours in the summer sun, balancing on sagging beams, patching holes one at a time. Nasha learned that carpentry required a kind of precision she'd never needed before. Orc training was about strength and instinct. This was about planning and care. You're good at this, Elias said on the third day, watching Nasha nail a new board into place with focused determination. I'm just doing what you showed me. Yeah, but you're actually listening. You'd be surprised how many people don't. They think they already know everything, or they rush, or they don't care about doing it right. He handed her another nail. You care, I can tell. Caring was a weakness in my clan, Nasha said, before she could stop herself. Elias was quiet for a moment. Then, your clan was wrong. It was such a simple sentence. 3 words. But Nasha felt something shift in her chest when she heard them, because nobody had ever said that before. Nobody had ever suggested that maybe the clan's values were the problem, not her inability to meet them. Tell me about orc clans, Elias said as they worked. Not nosy, just curious. I don't actually know much, just what people say, and I'm guessing most of that is wrong. So Nasha told him about how clans were organized around strength and honor, how warriors were respected and weakness was exiled, how she'd spent 18 years trying to be something she wasn't because being herself wasn't acceptable. Sounds exhausting, Elias said. It was. Is it better here? Nasha looked around at her broken house, at the village that feared her, at the human carpenter who was helping her for no reason, except that it was right. I don't know yet, she said honestly. Ask me again when the roof is finished. Elias grinned. Deal. They worked in comfortable silence after that, the sound of hammers and sawing wood filling the space where awkward conversation might have been. By the end of the second week, the roof was patched. Not perfect, but functional. Water would stay out. That was a victory. Next up, Elias said, wiping sweat from his forehead, we fix those floors, and maybe do something about the missing back door, unless you like having raccoons as roommates. I found 3 raccoons in the kitchen yesterday, Nasha admitted. See? Home invasion. We need that door. Elias. Nasha set down her hammer. Why are you really doing this? He looked at her for a long moment. You want the honest answer? Always. Because when you walked into Bess's tavern, you could have gotten angry, could have threatened people, made demands, acted like the monster they expected. But you didn't. You just asked quietly if there was anywhere you could stay, and when she insulted you, you didn't insult back. You just endured it. And then you traded something that obviously meant a lot to you for a house everyone else thought was worthless. He shrugged. That told me more about who you are than any amount of orc or human labels ever could. I'm not brave, Nasha said softly. I was just desperate. Sometimes those are the same thing. A month passed. then another. The house slowly transformed from catastrophic to merely concerning. Floors were repaired, the back door was hung, not perfectly, but it closed, and that was progress. Windows were patched or replaced. But more than the house was changing. Nasha and Elias developed a rhythm. He'd arrive mid-morning. They'd work until afternoon, breaking for lunch that Nasha would prepare. Simple food, orc-style cooking that Elias approached with cautious curiosity and ended up actually enjoying. "This is good," he said. The first time she made roasted root vegetables with herbs she'd found growing wild. Why does everyone act like orc food is scary? Because people fear what they don't understand. Nasha refilled his plate, and they've decided they don't need to understand orcs. Their loss. This is better than half the stuff at the tavern. They talked while they worked, about everything and nothing. Elias told her about growing up in Millbrook, about learning carpentry from Hob, about his parents who died when he was 16, and the responsibility he felt to honor their memory by being useful. Nasha told him about orc traditions, about the way clans sang morning songs that could last for days, about how every orc had a personal totem. Hers had been a sparrow, which her father said proved she should have been born human, about her grandmother, who'd been the only one who understood that strength came in different forms. "She sounds wise," Elias said. "She was. That's why she gave me the coin. She knew I'd need it to choose freedom." "And did you? Choose freedom?" Nasha looked around at the house they'd been building together. "I'm starting to think I chose possibility, which might be better." Somewhere in the third month, things shifted. Not dramatically, not with a single moment you could point to, but gradually, like seasons changing. It started with small things, the way Elias's hand would brush hers when passing tools. How Nasha found herself watching him work, appreciating the careful precision in his movements. The way conversations grew longer, work sessions stretched later, and goodbyes at the door became increasingly reluctant. One evening, as the sun set and they finally called it a day, Elias didn't leave immediately. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Always. Do you ever regret it, trading the coin?" "Your grandmother's coin." Nasha thought about that. "I thought I would. The first few nights I'd wake up and reach for it before remembering it was gone. But now," she gestured at the house, "now I think grandmother would approve. She didn't give me that coin to keep forever. She gave it to me to use when I needed it most. And I did." "You turned it into something permanent," Elias said. "Something real." "We turned it into something real," Nasha corrected. "I couldn't have done this without you." "Sure you could. Would have just taken longer and involved more creative cursing in Orcish." She laughed. A real laugh. The kind that came from somewhere genuine. Elias smiled at the sound. "You should laugh more," he said. "It suits you." "Orcs don't laugh much. It's seen as weak." Elias guessed. "Yeah, you've mentioned. Your clan had a lot of opinions about what makes someone weak." "They did. Can I tell you what I think is weak?" He turned to face her fully. "Being so afraid of seeming vulnerable that you never let yourself feel anything real. That's weak. What you did, leaving everything, starting over, building this place, that's strength." Nasha's breath caught. Nobody had ever called her strong before. Not like this. Not in a way that felt true. "Elias, I know this is probably inappropriate timing," he interrupted. "We're standing in a half-finished house. You're covered in sawdust. I'm covered in sawdust. This should probably wait until a more romantic moment." "What should wait?" He met her eyes. "Me telling you that somewhere between repairing your roof and teaching you to use a planer, I stopped just seeing you as someone who needed help, and started seeing you as you, Nasha, who makes terrible jokes while hammering, who apologizes to spiders, who talks to houses when she thinks I'm not listening, who's braver than anyone I've ever met." The air in the room felt different, charged, like before a summer storm. "Your people hate my people," Nasha said softly. "Some of them do, not all. Your people would never accept, I don't care. Simple, direct. I care about you, not your species. You." Nasha's hands were shaking. "This is a bad idea." "Probably. We're from different worlds. We're standing in a house we built together. Seems like we've already figured out how to share a world. Elias, you don't have to say anything, he said quickly. I just needed you to know that you're not alone here, and not just because I'm helping with carpentry, but because I care a lot. And if that makes things awkward, I apologize, and I'll still come help with the house because I said I would, but I couldn't keep. Nasha kissed him. Not dramatically, not like in stories, just a simple pressing of lips to lips, her hand coming up to touch his face, his sharp intake of breath against her mouth. When she pulled back, they were both shaking slightly. I thought I was going to have to monologue for another 10 minutes, Elias said shakily. You talk too much when you're nervous, Nasha replied. Her heart was doing things hearts absolutely should not do, racing and fluttering and generally being inconvenient. Are we? Elias seemed to have lost his ability to form complete sentences. I don't know what this is, Nasha said honestly. But I know I wake up looking forward to seeing you. I know I care what you think. I know that when you leave in the evenings, the house feels emptier than it should. So if that means something, then yes, this is something. Something good? He asked hopefully. Something terrifying and potentially very stupid and definitely going to cause problems, she smiled. So yes, something good. They stood there in the fading light, green hand in human hand, both of them grinning like idiots who'd just made possibly the best and worst decision of their lives. Outside, Millbrook continued on, unaware that inside a rebuilt house at the edge of town, the world had just changed. Again. Dawdy. For 3 weeks, they existed in a bubble of deliberate ignorance, working on the house, stealing moments, learning each other in the way new couples do, the small discoveries that feel profound. The way Elias hummed while working, how Nasha organized tools in order of size because chaos offended her sense of order. But bubbles don't last. They never do. The trouble started, as trouble often does, at the tavern. Bess found Nasha walking through the market one morning. You need to come with me, she said without preamble. No greeting, just urgency. What's wrong? Just come, now. At the Broken Barrel, a crowd had gathered. Angry crowd, raised voices. And in the center of it, trying to remain calm while surrounded by hostile humans, was Elias. Seen them together, someone was saying, working on that house, alone, all day, every day. So? He's helping a neighbor, Hobbs' voice. The old man had positioned himself next to Elias, smaller and frailer, but there. Nothing wrong with that. She's not a neighbor. She's an orc. She's a person. Elias said firmly, and she needed help, so I helped. That's what decent people do. Decent people don't consort with greenskins. Nasha pushed through the crowd. People recoiled from her, creating space. Stop, she said. Her voice came out hard, orc hard, the voice her father had wanted her to have all along. If you have a problem with me, address it to me. Don't harass Elias for being a better person than any of you. Oh, it speaks, someone muttered. She speaks, Nasha corrected, and she pays rent on her property, bothers no one, and has done nothing to deserve this except exist. So what exactly is your problem? A man stepped forward. Middle-aged, weathered face, the look of someone used to being respected. My problem is, we don't want your kind here. Bad enough you moved in, now you're seducing one of our young men. Seducing? Elias's voice was sharp. Are you serious? Nasha hasn't. We've seen how you look at her, boy. Don't think we haven't noticed. And if I do look at her, Elias stepped forward, angry now. If I care about her, what then? You going to exile me too? For the crime of seeing past skin color to actual character? The crowd shifted uncomfortably. This was getting too real, too fast. Nasha touched Elias's arm. Gently. Don't. Don't what? Don't defend you. Don't point out that you've been nothing but kind since arriving, and they're treating you like an enemy for existing. Don't make yourself a target for me. Too late. He turned to face the crowd fully. Nasha is my friend, more than my friend, and if you have a problem with that, fine, but leave her out of it. She came here with nothing, bought a piece of property nobody wanted, and has kept to herself. She's been a better neighbor than half of you. Elias, stop, Nasha tried. And you know what? I do care about her, a lot. And if that makes you uncomfortable, then maybe you should examine why it bothers you so much that someone different might deserve happiness too. The silence that followed was heavy, dangerous. Then Bess spoke up. Boy's got a point. Everyone turned to look at her. What? Bess said defensively. I'm not saying I like having an orc in town. I'm saying she's paid her dues, kept her head down, and hasn't caused trouble. More than I can say for some humans I know. She looked pointedly at a few men in the crowd who suddenly found the floor very interesting. If Elias wants to help her rebuild that death trap house, that's his choice, and unless she breaks the law, we've got no grounds to force her out. That's how property rights work. This is wrong, someone said, but the conviction was fading. Maybe, Bess acknowledged, but it's not illegal, and we're a village of laws, aren't we? Or are we a mob that drives out people we don't like? The crowd began to disperse, slowly, reluctantly, but they left. Elias was breathing hard, anger still radiating from him. Nasha's hand was still on his arm. You shouldn't have done that, she said softly. Had to. They'll make your life difficult now. Let them. I'm not backing down from this, from you. Bob approached, moving slowly. That was either very brave or very stupid, boy. Both, probably, Elias admitted. The old man looked at Nasha. What's that? He said loudly. Nasha had forgotten about his hearing quirk. I didn't say anything, sir. What's that? Speak up. I said I didn't. Hob grinned. I know. Just checking if you'd gotten the joke yet. He turned to Elias. She's sharp. I like her. If you're going to cause a scandal, at least you picked someone worth scandalizing for. Then he shuffled off, leaving them standing in the now empty tavern with Bess, who was wiping down the bar like nothing had happened. So, Bess said without looking up. You two an item then? Nasha and Elias exchanged glances. Yes, Elias said simply. Bess set down a glass with more force than necessary. Well, that's going to be a mess. I know, Nasha said. People aren't going to like it. I know. And they're definitely going to talk. I know. Bess finally looked up. But you're doing it anyway. Yes. Something that might have been approval flickered across Bess's face. Then you're both fools. Lucky for you, I like fools. They're more interesting than cowards. She pulled out 2 glasses and poured something amber. Drink. You're going to need it for what comes next. What came next was exactly what Bess predicted. Talk. Rumors. Disapproving looks. Mothers pulling children to the other side of the street when Nasha walked by. Vendors charging her extra at the market. Small cruelties that didn't break laws but broke spirit, and through it all, Elias stayed. He walked beside her through the market deflecting comments, sat with her at the tavern when Bess allowed them inside, worked on the house with renewed determination, as if every wall they reinforced was also reinforcing their right to be together. You could walk away, Nasha said one evening, as they ate dinner in the now functional kitchen. You could say it was just carpentry work. They'd forgive you. I could, Elias agreed. But I won't. Why not? This isn't making your life easier. Easy isn't the same as right. He reached across the table, took her hand. And this feels right. You feel right. So let them talk. Nasha turned his hand over, studying the calluses and scars from years of woodworking. Human hands, different from hers, but somehow they fit together anyway. In orc clans, she said softly, there's this belief that you can tell everything about a person from their hands, what they've worked at, what they value. My father's hands were scarred from weapons and warfare. My grandmother's hands were scarred from building and creating. She looked up at him. Your hands are like my grandmother's. Is that good? It's everything. Dees. The house was nearly finished when Garrick arrived. Nasha was replacing a window pane, carefully, the way Elias had taught her, when she heard it. Footsteps. Heavy ones. Orc ones. She knew who it was before turning around, would know that particular rhythm anywhere. The way he walked like the ground should be grateful he was stepping on it. Hello, little sister. Garrick stood in what was now a proper doorway, having to duck even more than Nasha did. He was 6'8" of pure warrior muscle, with scars that told stories and eyes that had seen too many battles. His skin was the deep forest green that marked him as proper orc bloodline. He wore traditional clan armor, boiled leather and bronze plates. He looked exactly like what humans feared when they thought of orcs. "Garrick." Nasha set down the glass carefully. "How did you find me?" "Tracked you, obviously." He stepped inside, looking around the house with evident surprise. "This is not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Dead body, starvation. You begging to come home." He picked up one of Elias's tools, examining it. "Not this." "Not you. Building something." "I'm not coming back," Nasha said flatly. "Father sent me to bring you home." "Then tell Father his message was received and rejected." Garrick set down the tool. "It's not that simple." "It's exactly that simple. I'm not clan anymore. I'm not welcome. You made that clear when you threw me out. We exiled you because you weren't strong enough." "No. You exiled me because I wasn't cruel enough, because I felt things, because I cared." Nasha's hands were shaking, but her voice stayed steady. "And you know what? You were right. I'm not an orc by your definition, but I'm something better. I'm myself." "And what is that?" Garrick gestured around. "A builder, in human lands, with humans." "Yes. That's not strength, Nasha. That's surrender." "Is it?" "I walked 3 days alone, bought this house with the last valuable thing I owned, rebuilt it from ruins, made a life in a place that didn't want me, all while carrying everything I am without apology." She met his eyes. "That sounds pretty strong to me. Just a different kind of strong than you understand." Garrick was quiet for a long moment. Then, "There's a human. The rumors said there's a human man. His name is Elias. You're involved with a human." "I am." Don't." Nasha's voice went hard. "Don't you dare. You don't get to judge my choices when you threw me away like I was defective. Elias saw me, helped me, stood beside me when I had nothing and no one, so yes, I'm involved with him. And it's none of your business. It's the clan's business." "I'm not clan." The words echoed in the small house. "You made sure of that, so you don't get a say in my life anymore." Footsteps outside. Both orcs turned. Elias stood in the doorway, tool belt on, clearly just arrived from Hobbs. He took in the scene immediately. The giant orc warrior, Nasha's defensive posture, the tension thick enough to cut. "Is there a problem?" Elias asked. Calm. But his hand had moved unconsciously to the hammer on his belt. Garrick looked at him, then at Nasha, then back to Elias. "You're the human," he said. "I'm Elias, and you're trespassing. This is my sister's home." "I can't trespass in my sister's home." "Actually," Elias said evenly, "this is Nasha's home, and if she wants you here, you stay. If she doesn't, you leave. That's how property rights work." The two men stared at each other. One nearly a foot taller and twice as wide, the other armed only with carpentry tools and audacity. "Elias," Nasha said carefully, "this is my brother, Garrick. He was just leaving." "Was I?" Garrick challenged. "Yes." Nasha stepped between them. "You delivered your message. I declined. Now you can go home and tell Father I'm alive, I'm well, and I'm exactly where I choose to be." Garrick looked at her for a long moment. "He won't accept this. He'll have to. I'm not asking permission. The clan exiled me. That means I'm not bound by clan rules anymore. I'm free, and I'm using that freedom to build a life here with people who actually want me around." Something shifted in Garrick's expression, not quite approval, but maybe understanding, or the beginning of it. "You've changed," he said quietly. "No, I've just stopped pretending to be what you wanted me to be." He nodded slowly. Then he did something unexpected. He pulled something from his pack, a small cloth bundle, and handed it to Nasha. "Grandmother's necklace from her personal effects. Father was going to burn it, but I thought you should have it." Nasha unwrapped the cloth with shaking hands. Inside was a simple leather cord with a carved wooden sparrow. Her totem. The one she'd been forbidden from displaying because sparrows weren't fierce enough. "Garrick, I don't agree with your choices," he said gruffly. "But Grandmother always said you were stronger than we gave you credit for. Maybe she was right." He looked at Elias. "You, human, if you hurt her, I'll come back and you won't enjoy it." If I hurt her, I deserve it, Elias replied evenly. Garak almost smiled, almost. Then he turned and walked out, disappearing into the forest as suddenly as he'd arrived. Nasha stood holding the necklace, tears streaming down her face. Elias came to her side immediately. "Are you okay? He brought my grandmother's necklace. He saved it for me. That's good, right? It means he doesn't completely hate me. It means maybe—" Her voice broke. "Maybe I didn't lose all of my family." Elias pulled her into a hug. She cried against his shoulder while he held her, this human man who'd somehow become her home in ways that had nothing to do with walls and roofs. The next month tested them in ways both expected and not. Someone left a dead crow on their doorstep with a note. "Go back where you belong." Someone else, they never figured out who, left a basket of fresh bread with a note that said only, "Welcome." The town remained divided. Some, like Bess and Hob, grudgingly accepted the situation. Others continued to mutter and glare and make life difficult in small ways that were hard to prove, but impossible to ignore. But the house was finished. Actually finished. Solid walls, new roof, doors that closed and locked, windows that let in light without letting in weather. The garden Nasha had started growing wild vegetables and herbs. One evening, as they sat on the front porch watching the sunset, Elias said, "I have something to tell you." Nasha's stomach dropped. "That sounds ominous." "Not ominous, just important." He took her hand. "I talked to Hob. He's officially making me a full carpenter, not an apprentice, which means I can take on my own clients and projects." "That's wonderful." "It is, but it also means—" He paused. "It means I need to decide where I'm going to base my work, where I'm going to live." Nasha's heart was doing strange things again. "And where is that?" "I was hoping." He looked at her. "I was hoping here. If you'd have me, not just visiting to help build, but actually living here, with you." The world went very quiet. "You want to live with me?" Nasha said slowly. "Officially, despite everything, because of everything. Because you're the person I want to wake up next to, because this house feels more like home than anywhere I've ever been, because He stopped, then pushed through. "Because I love you, and I'm tired of pretending that's complicated when it's actually the simplest thing in my life." Nasha couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel the enormity of what he was offering. Not just cohabitation, but partnership. Public, acknowledged, in the face of everyone partnership. "They'll never fully accept us," she warned. "Some will, some won't. That's their choice. This is ours. Your life would be easier without me. My life would be emptier without you, and I don't want empty." Nasha looked at this human man who'd shown up months ago offering to fix her roof and had somehow fixed something much deeper instead. Who'd stood beside her through every difficulty, who'd seen her at her lowest and stayed anyway. "I love you too," she said. The first time she'd said it out loud. "And yes, you can stay. Yes, I want you here. Yes to all of it." He kissed her then, there on the porch of the house they'd built together, as the sun set over Millbrook and the world continued spinning, and nothing and everything changed at once. 2 years later. The house had become something more than just a house. Word had spread, slowly, cautiously, about the orc woman and human man who'd built a life together. Some people came out of curiosity. Others came because they needed carpentry work and heard Elias was good. A few came because they were also outsiders who'd heard there was a place that didn't judge. Nasha had started a garden that provided vegetables for half the village. Elias had built furniture that people actually wanted to buy. Bess had become something resembling a friend, though she'd never admit it directly. Hob visited weekly, always pretending he couldn't hear when they thanked him for his early support. Garak had come twice more. The visits were awkward but not hostile. He brought news from the clan. Their father had died. Leadership passed to a cousin. Things were changing slowly. He never explicitly apologized, but he'd helped Elias build a new workshop without being asked, and that spoke louder than words. And then came the night that changed everything again. They were sitting on that same porch, a ritual now, when Elias pulled out something from his pocket. A small wooden box he'd carved himself. "What's this?" Nasha asked. "Open it." Inside was a ring, simple silver band, with a small green stone embedded in it. Nasha stared at it, then at Elias, then back at the ring. "I know we can't officially marry," Elias said quickly. "No law would recognize it, no church would perform the ceremony, but I don't care about official. I care about us. About making a promise to you that I intend to keep for the rest of my life." "Elias, you don't have to answer now. Take time. Think about—" "Yes." He stopped mid-sentence. "What?" "Yes. Obviously yes." Nasha took the ring from the box, slipped it onto her finger. It fit perfectly, of course it did. He'd probably been planning this for months. "You think I came this far, built this life, stood through all this trouble just to say no when you finally asked me to make it permanent?" "I was prepared for a longer conversation," he admitted. "We've been having that conversation for 2 years. Every day we choose to be together is part of that conversation. This is just making it official in the way that matters. Between us." They sat there, hands linked, new ring catching the fading light. "Your family will never approve," Nasha said softly. "Your family exiled you. The town will gossip. The town already gossips. This won't be easy. Nothing worth having is." Nasha laughed. That real laugh that came from deep in her chest. "We're idiots. Absolutely. Certified fools." Elias pulled her closer. "But we're fools together. That's got to count for something." The next day they made it public, not with fanfare or ceremony, just by existing together openly, ring visible, making no apologies and asking no permission. Some people were horrified, some were supportive. Most were somewhere in between, uncertain, uncomfortable, but gradually accepting, because what else could they do? The law had been followed, property rights respected. No actual rules broken, except the unwritten ones about who should love whom. Bess threw them an unofficial celebration at the tavern. "Not a wedding," she announced to anyone who'd listen. "Just a commitment party or whatever. Point is, there's food and drink, and if you've got a problem with it, there's the door." Hob gave them a set of matching work gloves. "Practical," he said loudly when anyone asked. "What's that? I can't hear you." The town baker, a woman named Rose, who'd always been kind in quiet ways, made them a cake with green and brown frosting. "Nature colors," she said diplomatically, "could mean anything." It was messy and imperfect and absolutely nothing like a real wedding. It was perfect. That night, back in their house, Nasha looked at the ring on her finger, then at the necklace with the wooden sparrow that hung around her neck, then at Elias, who was trying to figure out how to store all the leftover cake. "My grandmother's coin bought this house," she said, "but I think it bought more than that. I think it bought possibility. The possibility of becoming who I actually am instead of who I was supposed to be." "Your grandmother sounds like she knew exactly what she was doing," Elias said. "She always did." Nasha touched the wooden sparrow. "She told me the coin would help me choose right, and it did. It led me here, to you, to this life, to choosing myself." "And was it worth it?" Elias asked. "Trading your last connection to her?" "I didn't trade my connection to her. I honored it. She gave me the coin so I could be free, and I used it to buy my freedom. That's exactly what she wanted." Elias came to stand beside her at the window. Outside, Millbrook continued its evening routine. Lights in windows, smoke from chimneys. The ordinary life of an ordinary town that had, despite itself, learned to make room for something extraordinary. "You know what the best part is?" Nasha said. "What?" "This house isn't just where I live. It's proof that things can be rebuilt, that what's broken can become whole again, that sometimes the things everyone else gives up on are exactly the things worth saving." "Are we still talking about the house?" "We're always talking about the house." She turned to him. "And also, never just talking about the house." Elias pulled her close. "I love you. You know that, right? Even when I forget to say it, even when I'm distracted by sawdust and carpentry, I love you." "I know. I love you too." They stood there, green skin and pink skin, orc and human, two people who weren't supposed to work but did anyway, two people who'd taken something broken and made it beautiful. Outside, the first stars appeared in the darkening sky. Inside, A house that had once been ruins stood solid and warm and full of life. And in the space between those walls, two people who'd found each other against all odds made promises that didn't need official documents to be real. The world hadn't changed overnight. Prejudice didn't disappear because two people loved each other. Laws didn't rewrite themselves because of one cross-species relationship. But in that house, in that moment, things felt possible. Change felt possible. A future where differences didn't define worth. That felt possible too. And sometimes possibility is enough. Sometimes one gold coin and the courage to spend it can buy more than a house. It can buy a home. It can buy freedom. It can buy the chance to become who you were always meant to be, and that's worth more than all the gold in the world. Sire, if you've ever felt like you don't belong, like you're too different, like the world has no place for what you are, remember Nasha. Remember that she walked 3 days alone, bought ruins with her last treasure, built something beautiful from nothing. Remember that sometimes home isn't where you're born. It's where someone sees you, really sees you, and chooses to stay. Remember that love doesn't need permission to be real. It just needs courage. And remember that the bravest thing you can ever do is be exactly who you are, even when the world tells you that's not enough. Because it is enough. You are enough. And somewhere out there is your house waiting to be rebuilt, your person waiting to meet you, your life waiting to be lived. You just have to be brave enough to take the first step. Nasha did. And look what she built. If Nasha's story touched your heart, if it reminded you that courage comes in many forms and love knows no boundaries, then this channel is your home. Here at Orcbound Tales, we tell stories about the outsiders, the different ones, the people the world overlooks, and we show that they're not just worthy of love, they're extraordinary because of who they are. Subscribe to Orcbound Tales and join a community that believes in second chances, impossible love, and the strength it takes to be yourself. And if this story meant something to you, if you felt something listening to Nasha and Elias build their life together, leave a like to let me know this resonated with you. Better yet, drop a comment telling me, what would you have done with that gold coin? Would you have traded your last precious memory for a chance at a new beginning? I read every comment, and I love hearing your thoughts. Thank you for listening, thank you for being here, and remember, wherever you are right now, whatever you're facing, you're building something. Maybe you can't see it yet, but like Nasha's house, it's happening. One choice at a time, one day at a time. See you in the next story.